Hello everybody, another video request. There must have been a backlog during Christmas. If you have a chair that doesn't want to get comfy, don't go to assholeconsulting.com. Go to assholeconsulting.com if you have a question and you think I can help you out. Hi Aaron, several year reader and fan here. I just watched your retirement planning for millennial videos and would like to get some financial advice from you. Little background, I'm 32 years old and recently married. My husband is 36. We live in New York, both have art degrees. I know what you have to say about that. I know, New York sucks. They both suck. But we're making it work okay. We both make decent money and have pretty low expenses, especially for living in the city. We don't have kids yet, but want to, and this is something we have to do fairly soon. I believe I'll be able to get to work from home when we do, though probably not for quite as good a salary. We're looking at being frugal, though. I have no student loans, but my husband has some, about $32,000 left. We've been working together really hard to get rid of them at a rate of about $3,800 a month. That's great. That's really good amortization there. And I've paid off about $20,000 so far. We have a 6-month emergency fund of $10,000, and I have $6,500 in a Roth IRA. Neither of our companies match 401ks, so we haven't contributed anything to those. The Mr. Money Mustache Early Retirement Extreme websites resonate with me, living minimally, etc. And I've read a lot of people advocating buying index funds through Vanguard. That is what my IRA is through. However, I'm very skeptical when I hear people talk about how great the economy is because of how wonderful the stock market is doing. How everyone should invest all the money they aren't blowing by stimulating the economy, buying stupid stuff, so that we can still all retire early as millionaires. How buying a house is a great investment, etc., etc. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about here. Yeah, you live in New York with a bunch of fucking idiot liberal retards who don't know anything about finance or economics. It's, if we spend more money, that'll get the economy going. You know, I'm not saying you, but 5-year-olds know that's bullshit. That doesn't make any sense. This stuff doesn't add up to me, and I'm pretty pessimistic about the direction of the U.S. in general. It seems like our first priority needs to be paying off the loans as quickly as possible, but I worry because we are already in our 30s, and with all the advice saying you should be investing through your 20s, definitely feel like we're behind. Well, let me address that one first before I skip over anything. You are not behind. And the reason you're not behind is because no one at our age, and I'm being very liberal with the definition of our age, like 40 and under, have really had the long and sustained economic growth that has produced the higher paying jobs that are necessary to not only just pay off all of our student loans, but to afford a house, if that didn't wipe you out during the housing bubble, and then have any money left over to invest. Now, my primary concern, this is not financial, I cannot give you financial advice. I can only tell you my concerns and what Aaron Clary would do. And I'm not going to make any specific investment recommendations. But I will say is one of the key things that concerns me, I've written about this before, is how trillions of dollars of baby boomer money and now trillions of dollars of quantitative easing money has driven up, it's ended up in the stock market. It's driven up the prices of stocks relative to their earnings to a point that they're in bubble territory again. I think we're at the PE right now for the S&P 500 is 26. And historically it's been 15, depending on whose measures you want to do. That's an overvaluation of about 60%. Housing, you got kind of the same thing to worry about. There was a drop, but now housing's starting to creep back up. And the thing that concerns me about housing is that you have more and more people becoming liberals and leftists. That's moving to the left. And so owning property, especially in a city like New York, you're not owning an asset. You own the right to pay the city property taxes. So I know you may like New York, but I would not even think about a house in New York. I'd get the fuck out. And I would not be buying a house in any place unless there were like a solid Republican, solid conservative, low property taxes. And even that doesn't guarantee it because you got all these soccer moms who, I vote Republican because my husband told me to vote Republican. And they spit out kids, and there's nothing too good for my children, including your money, Aaron Clary, so pay more property taxes. No, you didn't get to fuck me. But you should still pay for my children. And that's basically how I feel it. So I'd be very careful where you buy a house. So housing is also, I think, not a great investment. So there really isn't a lot of great investments. And it doesn't matter because you probably haven't had the opportunity. You're still paying off your student loans. So are we behind the baby boomers? Yeah, but they're the only ones I think that ever had the timing down where they could actually avail themselves of contributing to a 401k or an IRA in their 20s and 30s and have somewhat of a career that would generate the excess money needed to provide for an adequate retirement. So, it wasn't until I was in my mid-30s I could even start really saving, and even then I won't lie to you. I have very little in the IRA and 401k. As a matter of fact, I have very little in assets. It's just been the house. I like paying off my debts. So that's what I do, is I live debt-free as much as possible. I worry about a lot of inflation and concern how to best protect what we have and what we'll be earning in the future. All right, to protect what you got, that much is simple. You go with gold or silver, some kind of precious metals, or you can get inflationary adjusted bonds. Those adjust for inflation. And then some people would say like a real estate investment trust, which is a way to invest in real estate because real estate, in theory, hedges against inflation. Ironically, another good hedge against inflation is the stock market. Because the value of stocks is not what those stocks had made in terms of earnings in the past. It's what those earnings are going to be in the future. And those earnings are naturally hedged against inflation, or can be hedged against inflation. So your real rate of return may not be going up, but it's like Zimbabwe or Venezuela. Their stock markets have skyrocketed, but it's all due to inflation. You could even say that that has directly already happened in the United States with quantitative easy money ending up in the stock market, and with corporations, due to low interest rates, deciding to borrow money and buy back their stock share. So in an indirect way, quantitative easing, or at least monetary policy, has resulted in the stock market truly being inflated. So you could invest a little bit in more there, but you got to understand, like, it could crash. It could be like the housing bubble or the dot-com bubble. People say, we're not investing in the stock market. I don't have the money to invest in the stock market. Gen X and Gen Y have to pay off their student loans. It's a baby boomer affair. And when they start selling their money out of stocks and go into bonds and fixed income, there's going to be some downward pressure there. So there's no way to tell what's going to be. So to specifically address, though, you're concerned about inflation, buy a little bit of gold and silver. That's a way to hedge. And I'm telling you, you want your value of silver and gold to go down, because that means the economy is doing better in general. So it is an insurance. It's treated like insurance, not an investment. It's insurance. You hope to God you never have to use it. But I'm concerned about how best to protect what we have and what we'll be earning in the future. To protect what you're going to be earning in the future, you're going to need to get good degrees and have really good skills, because at that point you can convert your time at whatever the going rate is in the future. I'm trying to see, art degrees. Okay, so I'm sorry, you guys are going to have to get a skill or a trade. Now, I know you're working now, but if you're worried about your future, maybe one of you ought to consider, going to computer networking or IT or something. Something, I don't know what. But yeah, consider something that is not your art degree. I don't know what your careers are. Maybe they are secure and stable. But it sounds like you're a little worried about it, and the only way to get that assured against that is to have a skill that everybody wants. Future. Sorry, this is so long. I guess I would like your advice on how to best proceed financially now and in the future. Where do we put our money to protect it and, God forbid, grow it? There is really no one that I respect as much for financial advice as you, having read what you have to say about not only economics but different kinds of subjects. Thank God for your blog and other conservative ones. I feel like I was going insane for being the only person to notice things without them. That's because you're in New York, dude. You get out to Texas, it's not that bad. Keep up the good work. Thanks. All right, here's the deal. I cannot tell you what to invest in. I can, however, give you advice that I cannot get sued for, because it doesn't fail. Pay off your debts. That's the number one thing. No one has ever gotten in financial trouble paying off their debts early. So your husband's got some of that debt. I would say just keep paying that off, man. You have enough money to, where's your emergency reserve? Yeah, of $10,000. That's a very good reserve. You could always pull from your IRA if you want to pay the penalty on that. But right now, I would be knocking out those debts, because the thing is, there's no downside to paying off debt, but you still save yourself a certain rate of return. I personally wish that they would make debt payments tax deductible for individuals, like their student loans or their houses, so people would accelerate their paying down of debts and shore up our finances here. But that's just me. If I was king. So pay off your debts. Keep living minimally. I would say maybe throw a little bit of money into your 529 plan if you have a kid. But the other thing, and this has nothing to do with finances, this has to do with time in life. You're going to have a kid. So start saving up some money for any birthing expenses you might have, any hospital bills you might predict having, and start getting some skills or trades that you can work as a mother staying home, that you could still work, say, on the computer or do something else. What that is, maybe computer networking, programming. Again, I don't know what your specific business is. Maybe you have a skill or a trade or know someone that you can work from home. Doesn't have to be a lot of money, but just some. That'll allow you to kind of take care of the kid, be the mother, also have some money stored up for the anticipated birth. But you got to have that kid before you get too old, because if you have a healthy kid now, that's expensive. You have a kid with Down syndrome or some other kind of genetic problem, that's a lot more expensive. So I would, and it's life too, you want to have your children, so go have your child, raise your family, do that. Just do some things anticipatory towards financing, pay for that kid. For where your money, you could be put it to grow, that's the advice I can't tell you about. That's what I don't provide that kind of advice, because that's the kind of advice you can get sued over. I don't know, and this is why they always have those legal disclaimers saying we are not responsible, the market is a dynamic thing, and it's not a science, and that's why they have it. That's why I'm willing to forgive some brokers and stockbrokers and investment advice, because there's no way to know. This is not a science, it is an art. And so that's why I don't advise on anything that I know are for sure things. Paying off your debts, don't pissing away your money. About the only thing I guess I could consider that I would say that you should take your money and invest it in is your skills. I know you may hate going back to school. I know you may not want to go to trade school. But take your time at least, and your money, if you want to go and pay for tuition, and either you and your husband get a secondary trade that you can fall back on, like a plan B if you both lose your jobs. The only other thing I would advise is get the fuck out of New York. I know you may like it, I know, but I don't know what were you making? Were you making enough to get by? There's just no real growth in New York. They're just, I know some sectors may be growing or whatever, but I would see if you can't, pay off all your debts and then go find a job somewhere else where it's warm, where you don't pay a fucking city income tax. You're not surrounded by a bunch of leftists. I mean, I could be wrong. It could be all that stuff annoys you, but you really love it for other reasons. Maybe you like New York. Maybe it just works well with you. But that's what I would do, is I would go to a state that's actually growing. So looking at places like Texas, Florida. Tennessee, you certainly got no state income tax. South Dakota, if you're interested, that's one of my favorite. Las Vegas, Nevada, that's another one to consider. But yeah, just pay off your debts, and if push comes to shove, where you want to start making investments where there's the growth potential, that's where you gotta do some research. That's why I have my class, the analysis evaluation of stocks, and even there I don't tell people what to invest in. I tell them this is how I research investments. And so that is going to be ultimately up to you. But yeah, I do not dispense specific financial advice or law advice or medical advice or psychological advice. Well, you could say life coaching is psychological, I guess. But I'm saying, like, if I know you got a mental problem, like, hey, I'm not a professional. So unfortunately, it's one of those things. Still, you do those things, paying off your debts, you are in infinitely better shape than most people who are under 40. Infinitely better shape. And so don't feel guilt that you haven't contributed enough money to retirement for saving for retirement. Just no one has had the time or the money. They just haven't. You got to quit comparing yourself to what professionals say you should be and look at your peers, because you went through whatever. The dot-com crash, I know I lost my job during that. And then the housing bubble, I couldn't tolerate anymore, so I quit. Enrollments in my dance classes, I mean, it sucked. It just, you know as well as I do, there wasn't a lot of opportunities or long spouts of growth there. We could have saved up the cash. Anyway, I do wish you guys the best. Have that kid. Seriously, have that kid. Get it done now. Make sure you raise them right. Consider where you really want to raise them in New York City, but then pay off the debts. And that's really all you can do. That's a surefire thing. Best of luck. Toodles.